The first thing is that breast milk provides ideal nutrition for the infant. The combination of vitamins and other minerals in the breast milk for the child is almost a perfect nutritional source for the child. It's ideal for the infant. It's perfect in terms of vitamins, protein and fat. It's a perfect mix naturally from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Breast milk also contains important antibodies that help the baby fight off viruses and bacteria. It lowers the baby's risk of having asthma and allergies. Babies who are breastfed exclusively for the first 6 months without any other milk have fewer ear infections, respiratory illnesses, and bouts of diarrhea. They have fewer hospitalizations. So just the milk of the mother, there is such benefit in terms of health, nutrition, as well as protection from certain infections and diseases, etc. It also reduces the risk of diabetes, obesity, and certain cancers, according to some research. It also promotes a healthy weight in children, according to most research. Breastfeeding infants are more likely to gain the right amount of weight as they grow up. And there's so many other benefits, medical benefits that the medical world has discovered. Some studies link higher IQ scores with children who have been breastfed, breast milk. There's benefits to the mother, weight loss, etc., her own health, the connection with the child. There's so many benefits of having natural breast milk for the infant. And this is what's encouraged through the Qur'an. It's what's encouraged according to Islamic law as a right of the infant, especially when there is no other reason for the mother not to feed or breastfeed the child. When there's no other reason, there may be reasons, of course, not everybody can do this. It's highly recommended, highly promoted, and even, like I said, a lot of scholars have said it's an obligation. Those who can should sacrifice and do this. Those who can should sacrifice, be patient. It's difficult, but be patient and do this for the best welfare of yourself and your child. This is what's promoted Islamically as well. And this is what's medically proven to be most beneficial. Everybody's promoting breast milk now. 10, 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't the case. But of course, individuals may have a situation, may have a reason, may have medical problem. Sometimes the baby rejects breast milk. There may be other reasons, health issues, etc., etc. But otherwise, the general standing rule should be the encouragement. There could be other reasons. Maybe the mother has to work financially. They can't support the family without both parents working, and therefore she can't do that. It's going to be too difficult, or it's going to affect the welfare of the family, finances, etc., etc. So there may be situations where this is not actually possible. The renowned Hanafi jurist Imam Ibn Abidin, he says, breastfeeding the child is morally necessary until the child is in need, until the child is no longer in need of breastfeeding. Recommended up to 2 years and permitted up to 2.5 years. Most of the scholars say the maximum period of breastfeeding is 2 years, as stated in the verse. But the Hanafis say 2.5 years. There's a difference of opinion there. The Hanafis say up to 2.5 years, somebody can be breastfed. And anybody who's breastfed in that period of 2 years, or according to the Hanafis, 2.5 years, then all of the rights of foster relations come into being. So if somebody is breastfed by a wet nurse who's not his mother or is not her mother, and that wet nurse has other children, they become related as a foster relation, milk relation, breastfeeding relation. They become related, and all of the rules apply as in real brothers and sisters in terms of marriage. They're not allowed to marry each other. But when does this rule come? It comes when somebody's been breastfed within that period, 2 years or 2.5 years. If someone drinks the milk of a woman later, after 2 years or 2.5 years, then according to the vast majority of scholars, that rule does not apply. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكِسْوَتُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Upon the father is the mother's provision and their clothing according to what is acceptable. Meaning, whilst the child is being nursed or breastfed, it's up to the father to ensure the mother is receiving the necessary maintenance, food, clothing, etc. Here some people said it's an extra payment because of another verse in Surah At-Talaq, but no, the majority opinion is that this is the normal situation in a marriage. If they're married, then there's no extra payment to be made to the mother. It's just that the husband has to ensure the wife is receiving enough food and clothing and maintenance in the normal course of marriage. But Ad-Dahhak commented, however, if the husband divorces his wife with whom he had a child and then she breastfeeds the child, he is required to provide for the mother's expenses and the clothes within reason. So if the husband divorces the wife during breastfeeding or during when the infant is still young, under 2 years old, and the wife needs to continue breastfeeding, the husband, even if they're divorced, the husband has to pay for that period up to 2 years, has to pay for the clothing and the food so that the wife or the mother can breastfeed and continue with that. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. No person is charged with more than his capacity. لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده. No mother shall be harmed through her child and no father through his child. So again, remember I said last week, a lot of these verses are to do with reducing harm. A lot of these verses are to do with reducing harm either of the child or whoever is being discussed. Often it's the woman who's divorced or the husband's passed away, etc., etc. It's about setting the boundaries, showing us the responsibilities, avoiding the harming of others. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says, number one, first thing is, لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. No person is charged with more than his capacity. It's come in the context of this, of where if the man and woman divorced and the wife demands a payment for carrying on breastfeeding and looking after the infant, the child, then somebody who's not rich, they're poor or of limited means, they can only pay a certain amount, whatever they can bear, whatever they can do. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there's no burden on a soul beyond its capacity. That's the context in which this is revealed. So that nobody takes advantage of the husband to demand a big payment for breastfeeding his child. But secondly, this has a wider application. This verse is very famous. Everybody knows this verse. لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. That the soul is not burdened beyond its capacity. Subhanallah, this is one of the biggest blessings Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to us. All of the things in Sharia, all of the rules and regulations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, the number one condition in the beginning, that the people of usul al-fiqh, the jurists, the scholars who study the usul of the fiqh, the principles of jurisprudence, the first thing they say is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never ever commands something for us to do that we are not able to do, that we don't have the physical or mental or moral capacity to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only commands us to do that which we are capable of, that which we are able to do. 5 times a day prayer. Are people able to do it? Yes or no? Yes. He didn't command something impossible. Fasting a month of Ramadan. A lot of people say it's difficult. People who are from outside of the faith, they become shocked. They say, how do you do this for a whole month? Not even water during the daytime. But is it beyond the soul's capacity? No. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only commands things that people can do, that people are able to bear. So the usulis, they say that one of the first conditions is for the mukallaf. In Sharia, there's no rules that apply to you if you are not a mukallaf, responsible. What does that mean? It means somebody who has, first of all, reached puberty, right? Secondly, is of sound mind. Their mind works, they can understand instruction, they can follow instruction, they can perform acts, right? Thirdly, they have the physical capability to do whichever action that is being commanded. If you don't have the physical capability, you are not required to do it. Just like in salah, if you cannot stand and do ruku or do sajda, you're allowed to sit and pray. If you can't sit and pray, you're allowed to even lie down and pray, etc., etc. So all of the rules of Sharia has been only given to us according to our capability, according to our ability, according to what we can do, what we can bear. And this is very important because culturally, a lot of people have this concept, misunderstanding, especially those who are a bit distant from the teachings of Islam, those who want to make excuses, or those who've been given a negative image of practicing the deen. One of the common things you'll hear is, all this is too difficult, it's too difficult. How can you pray 5 times a day, every day? How can you stay away from this, alcohol, gambling, haram foods, haram relation? How can you stay away from all of that? Drugs, everything. There's no enjoyment, subhanallah. This is what they say. They say this is too difficult to practice the deen. But they don't realize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this as a blessing. None of the rules are difficult. In fact, the people who do it, they love to do it. They enjoy it. The people who do it, they love to do it and they enjoy it. Ibn Taymiyyah said when he was imprisoned, he said that, his paradise is in his chest, in his heart. Doesn't matter where you place him, in the dungeon, dark, no food, drink, no light, in the prison. But he's in paradise. Why? Because of adhkar, dhikr, because of ibadah, because of knowledge, because of his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the true believers, they don't just do the ibadah, they don't just implement the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they actually enjoy it. They acquire a taste for it. They can't live without it. One of the Salaf, he said, how will I survive the grave, the qabr, without praying? Because after you die, you don't have to pray. Of course, there's no salah in the qabr, in the grave. He said, how will I live there without doing my salah, without praying? This is how much he loves his prayer. So, the Prophet ﷺ, he used to say to Bilal, make the adhan, bring the coolness to our eyes. This is like enjoyment. This is peace. This is respite. The Prophet ﷺ used to enjoy his ibadah. The Sahaba, they used to enjoy their ibadah. So the believers, they are the people who don't see this as a burden, and they don't think, that's nice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to do something which we're able to do. No, they go a step further. They actually enjoy the ibadah. They enjoy the salah. They enjoy fasting. They enjoy the hajj, the umrah. They enjoy obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Ibn Taymiyyah said, if you don't taste the paradise in this dunya, then you can't taste it in the next world. Meaning, if you don't taste the sweetness and joy of following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how can you expect to taste it in paradise? How do you expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with you, or for you to fulfill your duties towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you don't actually love doing this or enjoy doing this? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this, لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها. Subhanallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no person is charged with more than his capacity. Then to explain it further in this context, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no mother shall be harmed through her child. Meaning that a mother should not be harmed. If people go through a divorce and there's a young child involved, 2 months old, 3 months old, and the mother is breastfeeding that child, it could be that the husband on purpose brings another wet nurse for the child and forces the mother to separate from the child and gives that child to a wet nurse to breastfeed. So this is what it's meant, that don't cause any grief to the mother, don't harm the mother, don't separate the mother from the child, don't bring any extra burdens on the mother. So no mother should be harmed through her child or due to her child or because of her child. So it's a big warning to the husbands. No mother should be harmed through the child. Vice versa, no father should be also harmed through his child. If this happens, that the father and mother separate and they have a young child, then the mother should not also harm the father by saying, I refuse to breastfeed him, or I refuse to look after him, or I refuse, as in spite, or to get revenge. So the theme here is avoidance of harm. The mother should not be harmed through the child, and the father should not be harmed by the mother through the child. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَى الْوَارِثِ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. And upon the heir is a duty like that. Means upon the father's heir, the warith is someone who inherits from the father, is a duty similar to that. Meaning, what does this mean? It means that whoever is going to inherit the father, like the son, the elder son, or a brother, if the father passes away and the mother is left breastfeeding, then the one who inherits that father, he should also treat that mother similarly and pay for what needs to be paid for. This is according to the majority. Some people differ over the identity, who is the heir, etc. But generally, if the father was to pass away, whoever is going to inherit the father's wealth has the same duties towards the mother of that child as the father had. So they need to carry out the same duties. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِنْ أَرَادَ فِصَالًا عَنْ تَرَادٍ مِّنْهُمَا وَتَشَاوُرٍ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا. That if they both desire weaning through mutual consent from both of them and consultation, there is no blame upon either of them. This means before the 2 years is up, if both parents decide together through consultation that they will stop breastfeeding the child, the infant, before the 2 years or the 2.5 years, according to the Hanafis. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there's no blame. If after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, people want to wean off the infant off the breast milk, and they do it in consultation, tashawurin. Not that the mother decides on her own without consultation, and not that the father decides on his own without consulting the mother. It should be mutually agreed. Why? Because the interest, whose interest is at concern here is the infant, the child. The child should not be harmed. The father may know something about a harm of the child. The mother may know something that if the child is weaned, it will harm him or her. So basically it should be done through mutual consultation. There should be no harming of the child. And the weaning should happen, meaning if you want to stop breastfeeding, it should happen gradually. The child must not be harmed. Sabuni says the word for tashawur, it comes from the root shawr, consultation. In Islam, consultation is the same root word that you apply when you process or when you extract honey from the honeycomb. The way you extract honey from the honeycomb, that process uses the same word from tashawur, shawr. In other words, any decisions you make with mutual consultation, or you consult with others, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an about the believers, that their amr, their affair is by shura. Their affair, the believers, the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ, their affair, they manage their affairs through consultation. The Prophet ﷺ, he is the Prophet, he is the leader, he is divinely inspired and revealed, the Qur'an is revealed to him. Yet, he used to consult his companions on different things. Obviously, not something where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given clear guidance. But he used to consult his Sahaba on other matters. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described them that they managed their affairs through consultation. This is very important. So here as well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they should, if they want to stop breastfeeding the child, the infant, the matter should be decided through consultation. And this is an important principle for all believers. Whether in a family, not just the father makes all the decisions. There should be consultation with the children, with the wife. Same, the wife should consult the husband and the children, or relatives, or close family, or parents. Same if you're in a jama'ah, if you're in an organization, there should be consultation. Any decisions you make, you'll come to a better result. Just like the honeycomb, you extract the honey. Your decisions will be much sweeter and palatable if you consult between others, especially those that your decisions affect. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنْ أَرَدْتُمْ أَن تَسْتَرْضِعُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا سَلَّمْتُمْ مَا آتَيْتُمْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says that, and if you wish to have your children nursed by a wet nurse, a substitute, there is no blame upon you as long as you give payment according to what is acceptable. So it's possible the mother may ask somebody else to breastfeed the child on her behalf for various reasons. It could be the divorced mother, it could be the married mother for health reasons, etc. That is fine as long as you pay them whatever is due. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. Meaning none of your affairs or speech escapes Allah's perfect watch. He is, whatever you do, He is basir about whatever you do. Basir, He sees, He watches, He knows everything you do. The rules and regulations Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, the rules and regulations exist. But with human beings, when it comes to interaction between family members, between children, infants and parents and wives and husbands, all kinds of motives come into play. Especially if there's argument or rift or disagreement, then duty, responsibility flies out the window. Sometimes people take advantage of the other person. Sometimes the person in authority takes advantage of the person who's weak or vulnerable. Sometimes you don't give the full due of the other person's rights. Sometimes you don't look out for the best interest of the other person. So all of these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He watches, He sees what you're doing. Some people may pretend to follow the rules and give some rights, but they have other motives. Or they say something which is not true to claim extra rights. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He sees all that. He sees your action, but He also sees your intention. Actions you can get away with from the judge. Especially in the West, there's no authority to enforce these rules on any family. These rules, no one can enforce these on any family. It's down to the family to voluntarily follow the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ, fear Allah. وَاعْلَمُوا, know أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. That Allah subhanahu, and He put بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ, with what you do, He put that before the word basir, meaning focusing on your actions. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever you do, all your actions, inward, outwardly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees that, He's basir. He knows what your intentions are. He knows every act you do. You might be doing it in the closed doors behind your home. Or if she's divorced but in the waiting period, during the iddah period, she can't demand extra payment. If she's divorced, she can. According to the majority, according to the majority of scholars, the mother is obliged to breastfeed, not because of an explicit injunction to this effect, but because of custom and practice which the Qur'an confirmed. According to the Hanafis, it is not allowed to give the child away to another wet nurse if the mother is able and prepared to breastfeed her own child. According to Imam Malik and Abu Hanifa, a divorced woman has greater right to the custody of the female child until the girl's marriage. So, in a divorce situation, a young female, a daughter, the mother has the right to more right to the custody of the daughter until she's of marriageable age. And also, the woman has a greater right to the custody of the male child until the age of 8, when he is given a choice between the father and mother. So until 8, the mother has more right to the custody of the child. At the age of 8, the child can be given a choice to stay with the mother or father. However, the scholars agree that she loses this right if she remarries or disqualifies herself by other means. Meaning, if the mother immediately gets married somewhere else, then the father has the right to the children. She loses that right. Or if the mother is ill or mentally unstable or is harmful for the child because of some other practices or bad behavior towards the children, etc., etc., if the children will be in danger. Vice versa, same with the father as well. And as I mentioned, if the woman is divorced and she's breastfeeding the child, she has a right to payment for breastfeeding, for nursing, and other expenses of the child and her own clothing and food, meaning that's included in the payment for breastfeeding. So as I mentioned, the main thing in Islam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us guidance on rights and responsibilities, especially on family matters, but has left some issues, some details to custom, culture, urf, if you like. If you look in the verse, it says bil ma'ruf in this verse and many verses. وَعَلَى الْمَوْلُودِ لَهُ رِزْقُهُنَّ وَكِسْوَتُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. The father has to give the rizq and the clothing, food and clothing to the woman in according to bil ma'ruf, with the known or acceptable standard in that society, in that community. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given guidance for everything. Some details He's left. It's up to you, according to your community, your society, what is an acceptable maintenance amount for that woman in that community. You decide for yourselves according to the custom, according to what is currently the norm, if you like. Secondly, the main thing about these verses, although they establish the huquq, the rights and responsibilities, is the avoidance of harm. Why do we establish rights and responsibilities? So nobody is harmed. Harm is minimized. One of the key goals of Sharia is to bring benefit and to avoid harm. The summary of whole of Sharia is to bring benefit, interest for the individual and the family and society, and to avoid harm for the individual, family and society. And these rights and responsibilities are there as a basic minimum. You know, we shouldn't go down to that level of looking at the rights and measuring who's got this right and that right. That's the minimum. It should be much greater than that. Both sides. People should act beyond the rights. The rights you go to when you go to court, when there's a dispute about somebody's rights being taken away, etc., you go to the courts. That's when you look at the list of rights and responsibilities. If you've gone to that stage, then it's very late. You're going to dispute, the judge will decide. But before that, you have to go beyond your responsibility, and she has to go beyond her responsibility. Vice versa. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us. And always remember that no matter what action we do, the rules and regulations on itself is not enough. But what will enable us to implement them is the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watches everything. Everything we do is recorded. We will be responsible on the Day of Judgment for our actions, every single one of us. We may get extra money out of somebody in the family through devious means, through lying, through pretending, through claims that are not true, through false claims. We may take away the rights of family members through false claims and lies in this world. But that will not last long. That you will suffer if you do that in the dunya and the akhirah. But definitely know on the Day of Judgment, we will be held accountable and responsible for our actions, for our fulfilling our responsibilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand His words and His rules and regulations. Give us the tawfiq to fulfill our duties in all our areas of responsibilities. We'll stop here inshallah.